Well, we're seeing this live shot on your screen of agitators gathering outside of the hotel of Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, who is going to be leaving town tomorrow. They're banging on drums. They're making a lot of noise. They know that he's staying in this hotel, and we've seen them get violent in lobbies throughout the last couple of weeks. What do you make of the changes announced today in terms of who's operating on the ground and who's leading the deportation effort? I know Tom Homan is going to basically replace him there on the ground. Do you think he should have been in charge in the first place, or is this just simply a change as we're seeing the president talking to local leaders?
Well, I think it's, with everything going on, it's maybe a good reset opportunity. But let's remember, when Bovino has been there, they've deported 3,000 illegal aliens during this mission, and a lot of those people have criminal records and serious criminal records. But I think what Tom Homan brings to the table, he is a former ICE director, and ICE is typically who's involved in removing illegal aliens that are internally in the country, and Border Patrol is usually dealing with those on the border. So I think a lot of that is going to be, sort of more in Tom Homan's comfort zone, and he brings a lot of credibility to this issue. And if these leaders continue to defy, continue to obstruct after he gets in there, it's very telling where they're coming from, because he's saying, give us the criminals, turn them over from your jails, help us find them on the streets. And if they say no, that really shows their highest priority, which I think most people really know it now. The Democrats' highest priority, they weren't just opening the borders just to open the borders. They were opening the borders to bring them illegal aliens here, and then they need to keep them here. It all falls apart if they get sent home. So I think they kind of give up the game, honestly, the Democrats, when they talk about this issue, because their only solution always seems to be ICE should leave and the illegal aliens should stay. Yeah. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, over the weekend and into today, it's been reported the shooting was an ICE shooting. It was actually a Border Patrol shooting. And the idea that Border Patrol has to be in Minneapolis, which is not a southern border state, I think says a lot about where we are. The president said today on Truth Social that he had a phone call with Governor Walz and that they were on the same wavelength. Do you think that Walz can be trusted just based on the things that he's been saying over the last couple of weeks and the way that he's been handling the failure of and refusal to turn over violent criminal aliens inside of the jails in Minneapolis and in the rest of the state?
I don't think he could be trusted for a couple of reasons. One, because this rhetoric didn't start with this operation. Remember, at the commencement speech in May of 2025, Tim Walz was comparing ICE to the Gestapo. So that was before any of this happened, and that was the Democrat playbook back then. But it really will be telling, will he cooperate? And another thing that he put out there that wasn't trustworthy, he wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal talking about how Minnesota actually cooperates with ICE, but it was very misleading because he was talking about the State Department of Corrections when he knows, in fact, their jails do not turn over people to ICE. They'd rather release them back in the streets of Minneapolis. So he can hopefully turn over a new leaf and not want to have his city burn down again, which it did 5 years ago under his watch. But I would say I'm pessimistic.
Yeah, it looks like things are escalating outside of the hotel where Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino is staying. You see a lot of officers there. Federal agents, I believe, will have to check and see exactly who these officers are, but they're engaging in crowd control. They have their gas masks on. They're clearly forming a line to protect this building where he is staying after we've seen a number of hotels attacked where Border Patrol and ICE agents have been staying as they carry out their operations. There you go, a number of other police who are armed trying to put a perimeter around the building. Clearly the agitators here, Jonathan, are trying to push ICE out. What would be the consequence if that were to happen?
Well, I think that our whole system is based upon, we have federalism, federal law and state law, and you're essentially allowing other entities to dictate where federal law can be enforced and actually have a true sanctuary for federal law enforcement or immigration law enforcement. And it cannot be tolerated, not just because of immigration law, but for all federal laws going forward and the precedent it sets. So this cannot hold, regardless of how it breaks down. Federal law must be enforced in Minnesota and everywhere else.
You're getting more information about the scenes on your screen. Those are local law enforcement in riot gear doing crowd control. So it seems like there is some cooperation now with the local police defending this hotel, where, again, Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino is said to be staying. Jonathan Fahey, thank you so much for being here with your expertise. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.